Okay, so we're going to talk briefly about the type focus assessment that you took, about personality, your personality, and what that means to you, what that means about you as an individual, or what that means about you vis-a-vis other people. Now, the reason that I'd like you to take this assessment is to not only find out a little bit more about yourself. Remember, from the first day of psychology, I said the more you know about yourself and the more you know about others, the happier you'll be, the better life will be, because you can understand yourself and other people more. You won't just think they're stupid for acting in a way that you wouldn't, or you won't think that you're stupid for doing something that you don't understand. When we understand what's going on and what drives us, then we're much more tolerant and compassionate, and that makes the whole world more predictable and understandable, which for us, for humans, is a good thing. That helps us feel more at home in the world and with other people. This works well both at work, with significant others, or in relationships with friends or family, or at work or school, where you have to interface with other people all the time. I think I've shared with you that it wasn't until I was about 40 that I realized that people who did things that I didn't understand, they did things in a way that I wouldn't have done. I always thought those people were just dumb. I always thought, well, that's stupid, I wouldn't do that. By the time I got to be about 40, I realized that there were a lot of very different people in the world with very different motivations for their behavior. And so it was like, oh, this light bulb going off, like, oh, there really are people who are way different than I am. And so they're not stupid, they just have really different motivations and very different goals, very different ways of seeing the world. Remember, we all have our own reality. We talked about that when we talked about perception. So in these trait theories, Jung was a psychologist, and he came up with a lot of psychological theories that were trait theories. That is, we are who we are and we act the way we do because of certain characteristics and traits that we possess. And there have been a lot of psychologists trying to figure out how you put all these different traits. I mean, there's hundreds of different kinds of traits. And there wasn't a way to categorize them or figure out how they went together. And Myers-Briggs was one of the very first teams of psychologists. It was actually a mother-daughter psychologist team who put together this assessment, and it gives you 16 different combinations of traits. And these 16 different combinations you will find on page 4 of this week's agenda, and they are grouped into categories: guardians, idealists, artisans, and rationals. And hopefully you have already taken your Jung typology test at the website on the bottom of page 3, and that you have your 4-letter descriptors. You can go to those sites and look and see what the descriptions are and see if that describes you pretty well. If you are kind of in between, these things are a continuum from this side to this side on each of these characteristics, each of these pairs of characteristics. And sometimes if you are located in the middle, you could really lean more toward one side or the other, depending on the situation. So think of your type. If you were an ENTP, but your T was right in the middle, it may make more sense to look up and read about the ENFP personality. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. All right, so I want to just give you a brief overview of the difference between these kinds of, or constellations of traits. And I know you probably didn't like the forced choice style of the assessment, but they have to force you into one of these 16 boxes. And of course, there's almost 7 billion people in the world, and some people are going to be very well described by those 4 letters. Other people won't be so well described because they're a little bit more in the middle on some of these. And so you need to kind of look around at some of the descriptions to see which ones really fit for you. The reason we do this, the reason we make you get shoved into a box, is so that we have something to talk about. In reality, the reality is that you are truly unique among the almost 7 billion people in the world. Well, great. It would be fine and dandy if we had an assessment that was just geared toward you as an individual. Then we could find out all about you. But it wouldn't make much sense, because then it wouldn't give you any information about how you relate to other people or what other people are like. So if you look at some of these universal characteristics and see yourself in some of these universal characteristics, then you can get a sense of, oh, this is my type. Yeah, that sounds a lot more like me than this other type over here. I really get along well with people who are like me, who are this same type. I have a really hard time understanding people who are not like me, who are over here in this other different kind of type. But we need to understand each other if we're going to work well together, because each of us brings a constellation of gifts to the table. But we bring different gifts, very different gifts. So for example, I happen to be an ENTP. That's my personality type. So I'm an extrovert, which you can guess. I'm high on intuition.